Great industries with sizable proportions serving a big ecosystem eventually need to mend their ways to be able to become more transparent, accessible, and manageable with time. We are Team Brady Viemko and Tushar Sonwani, and we chose to tackle the challenges in building digital infrastructure for land leasing relationships. We identified that infrastructure that connects the farmers, land managers, and investors across the value chain is almost non existent. We also found that data related to land prices, yield rates over the years for farms, and overall ESG coefficient for a farm are not consistent at all, making jobs hard for land managers, farmers, and investors. The problem is cost, since a lot of the business is done solely on paper when it comes to easily digitalizing the solution. But we also identified the issue that the industry needs to move forward with intent to not just embrace the future, but be the future. And it really is a complex problem because it has a multitude of people who are entirely different in their roles. There's the grower, there's the investor, there's the retailer, and there's the landowner, and they all have different objectives. The grower wants new sources of income where they can credibly sell carbon credits and cost reduction for their insurance premiums. Investors, of course, want their key accounts to be retained and also want to expand farmlands where there is no key data available on it. Retailers want to comply with the SEC rulings and have ESG coefficients which they can reliably report, but there is no method to meet the sustainability key indicators. And landowners want to match with the best growers to have their land value appreciated and, of course, make more money. The jobs to be done on the scale of a high value is that investors want premium price so that they're in the loop and they don't exit out of the industry, and want good ROI. And this they can't do it because there is lack of reliable data, and then there is no way for them to actually go and match with the right person for their needs. The retailers need ESG metrics, as I'm talking about, but the carbon footprint reporting is extremely unreliable, and that inhibits the retailers to report the ESG metrics correctly. Also, there needs to be lower insurance premium and ROI for the grower year over year. Whereas insurance coverage is very rudimentary for now. It needs to go into the utilization of the area than to cover the entire thing, because that costs more money. Utilized area will cost less money and it makes more sense. And also selling carbon credits needs to be done reliably, which is $2 billion of an industry, and farmers and growers can take a lot of benefits out of it. To talk about this entire paradigm of this problem, we come up with this solution which needed to be software based. So we created an idea which was end to end, which connected, created, and shared farming data with reliable parties, connected across the value chain. And this is where it gets interesting. This is revolutionizing how farming leasing is conducted here in the United States, where the Internet of Things are connected together, and there's a beautiful dashboard where the grower understands the needs of their crops, the utilized area, and can reliably predict their ESG, can reliably predict how much yield there would be, and also other factors that relate to this. Also, new entrants in the farming industry are very confused because there are no proper land prices. So we came up with the idea of segregating each county and what are the average prices that they go by, so that the farmers and the investors can make a key decision where they can invest their money. For elaboration on the solution, I would like to call Brady.
So where are we getting this data from? Well, we're vertically integrating the agricultural value chain. This starts at a relationship level between each of the players. The most important aspect of what we're doing here is centralizing, and this all starts at a contract level. When we connect the parties with our platform, we're taking in their data on what they expect on the specific clauses and the definitions that are outlined, and we're holding accountability by also bringing in farm-level data from existing farm management software integrations leveraging APIs. We also are connecting to farm-level data with equipment. And lastly, we're also using available data from the industry to evaluate and justify the prices of land and insurance. On the right, you can see what our ideal software would look like, elaborating from Tushar's dashboard. We want to be able to recommend and suggest actions to take for each of the stakeholders, but we also want to match them based on their expectations and their performance. As you can see here, we are using AI and machine learning to take in a variety of input parameters and run it through different layers in order to understand and align each stakeholder partner based on their performance and the output value. So what's our value proposition? We're building this digital infrastructure to connect the relationships, but who's at the center? Well, that has to be the grower. The grower is the ultimate player in this circle, as you can see on the right. What they want to do is build the better relationships across their important partners, those being the investor, the retailer, and the landowner. The investor is looking for return on investment. They want to make sure that their money is in a safe space where it's able to get a healthy return that depends on the farmer's performance. Next, the retailer. The retailer expects to execute on their key sustainability goals. And what we're going to do is focus on ESG and give a reliable performance metric from this. And lastly is the landowner. The landowner wants to ensure that their land is in the right hands. And we will do this by connecting them to the correct grower and ensure that the long-term appreciation of the land happens. So now that we've gone over the solution from our initial problem, what are the barriers removed as a result of this? Well, there's quite a few. The first and most important one is the strengthened relationship. In the past, relationships were non-existent and they all depended on paper, tucked away in folders and filed cabinets for never to see. So by connecting and bringing in all of this data, we provide transparency across the value chain, which will lead the industry overall into the future. We're also ensuring that production capacity is hit. We know the yield rates, we know what's expected from farmers' history, and we can ensure that there's accountability there. Next, we're reducing clerical legal work. Contracts are long, convoluted, and extremely complex. By automating it and building a digital assistant, we're able to drastically simplify this process. And lastly, we're providing cashless alternatives to rental payments. There's over $30 billion in rent paid every single year between the intermediaries. And what we want to do is bring in a digital interface to streamline this process. So the outcome of this is we're able to provide digital accountability for all of the stakeholders. All data is transparent and traceable. We also are using farm level, contract, and industry data to process it through our AI and ML algorithm. And next, we're able to provide more digital transactions for leasing. This is in the contract, the payments, and the performance stage where we're automating these extremely complex processes that are very manual across the value chain. As I mentioned earlier, $30 billion a year is paid out in rent, and all contracts are done in paper, so there's no accountability in the long term. So how are we different from existing solutions? Well, everything is fully manual. As I mentioned, it's tucked away in folders where no one's able to discover it. Our approach is building the digitalized land lease relationship flywheel, as you can see on the right. It all happens in the discovery stage, right, where these industry partners are aligning, where we ingest data to ensure that the partnerships are positive, looking at historical performance and their experiences, ingesting in land data, yields and insurance rates to build a contract that is fair for everyone and that we can provide the interface for all these stakeholders to ensure that the ROI is maximized. We have an unfair advantage when it comes to this because we have an extensive network to introduce this solution that is very lightweight and that fits into any farm with our industry partners. Next, we're also building a single source of truth across the agricultural value chain. We're not looking to replace existing farm management data, rather complement it by building the digital interface to facilitate the relationships and to build them over time. We want to thank you so much for listening to our presentation and have a wonderful day.